Hello guys, and welcome to yet another Wednesday video, which as you may have expected, it's another patch note video. So let's see what we got this week in terms of improvements, and yeah, let's just get started. I'm going to begin this time with the content changes because that's what is on the top of the page. So the first change for this week is the addition of the fairy Laila, which you probably already know from the title of the patch notes. This one is a change that some people like and others don't, but anyway, you can obtain these fairies by either doing the Black Spirit series of quests in the beginning to get the sealed fairy wings, and then after that you have some recurring quests which can be completed. Besides those, there's also an event which I'm going to get into later, but anyway, you can use the sealed fairy wings that you get from different quests to obtain a random fairy Laila between tiers 1 and 4, and you have to register them at the Kamasilve temple at the young Kamasilve tree. You can only have one fairy registered at a time, and if you want to register another one, you will have to release your first fairy. So basically you have what you get. You can try to level up the fairy that you currently have, and if you don't like it, you can just simply release it, and once you release the fairy, you're going to get some fairy powder proportional to the fairy tier and growth level of the one that you already had before, So basically what this comes down to is you are gambling to get a good fairy, a good tier fairy, and once you have that one you need to level it up and hope to get some proper skills out of it. All fairies are going to have luck level +1 as the default skill, and then you can obtain additional skills for every 10 levels of growth. A random skill between levels 1 and 5 can be gained. You cannot change the skill level once you already learned it, so basically you gamble to get the best level skills. The higher tier of the fairy, the higher its maximum level can be reached, and thus additional skill slots will be available. So basically the first fairy, the faint one, has maximum level 10 and can only obtain 1 extra skill, the second one 2 extra skills, and so on until you get to the radiant one, which I'm going to assume is tier 4, and this one can obtain 4 extra skills because its maximum level is 40. The skills themselves, you can see them on this chart. In my opinion, the most useful ones are the Morning Star because it lights up the surroundings, the Miraculous Cheer because of the auto consumption of potions, and then the weight limit penalty reduction because everyone wants to have as much weight as possible. In total, it seems from this chart that there are only 6 skills, so with the right tier fairy and the right RNG luck, you might get one of these 3 skills and hopefully not have to re-roll or remake new fairies and attempt to level them up over and over. Anyway, that seems to be about everything. The skill fairies tier, which is the one that resurrects you, cannot be used in Node Wars and Conquest Wars, so there's that and some other irrelevant stuff. If you want to see your fairy, you have to uncheck the hide pets option, because apparently the fairy is a pet. And now let's move on. We have Yona's Fragments have been added. Yona's Fragments will drop from the monsters in Valencia, so I suppose that's a huge buff for every single grinding spot in Valencia, and you can use these fragments along with some other pretty much cheap items to craft some very expensive accessories. It also says that you need to have level 5 jewelry in Altinova or Valencia City, so there's that, but if you do have the workers and whatever else is required, I believe this should be a very noticeable buff to Valencia, because from this chart, again, the materials don't seem to be that expensive, except the blackstone powder maybe. The fine thick fur, I don't know how much that one is worth, but the main ingredient seems to be the Yona's Fragments, so it does seem to be a very noticeable difference or buff in the Valencia areas, because if you can make almost for free stuff like Basilisk's belt, then it should add quite a lot of value. Anyway, that being said, it still remains to be seen what is the drop rate for these Yona Fragments, but from the patch notes themselves, it just seems like this makes every single spot in Valencia that much more contested. Moving on, the Savage Rift reward system has been revised, so now instead of getting 7 gold bars, you're going to get 8 millions. So instead of just getting gold bars, you're going to get silver in the mail, and on top of that, instead of getting 7 millions, you're going to get 8 millions. So that's pretty nice. You can now receive skill experience as a reward from the Savage Rift, so again, a very nice addition, and the rest seems to be somewhat irrelevant. A private mode has been added to the Arena of Arsh. In private mode, 2 teams will have a 1v1 match per round where 1 player will fight from each of the teams. That's nice. One of these days I really need to check the Arena of Arsh out because I never check it out. The Arena of Arsh venue has been improved. The topography has been made simpler and some obstacles were removed. Some sturdy walls were added to prevent falling in the gaps, as you can see on the 2 pictures, and some other interesting changes. Not gonna go through all of them because if you are interested in the Arena of Arsh, you can see them on the screen or in the patch notes. The drop rates of the Azula's weakened magic accessories has been increased by 50%, a buff which in my opinion is useless because the accessories themselves, I mean the weakened ones, are pretty useless. The overall value of the fish has been increased by 25%. This one seems quite noticeable. It will be interesting to see how much this 25% increase will affect the income for stuff like fishing in Margoria actively, so basically active fishing. The overall value of trade items has been increased by 20%. This one, I hope this includes crates. If not, it's going to be irrelevant, but if it does include the crates, then 20% is quite a huge buff. Some fix to the progression of the tutorial irrelevant, and we get into the events finally. For the first event, we have Fairy's Lost Item has been added to celebrate the addition of the Fairy Laila. You can obtain 1 Lost Fairy bag per hour, up to 5 per day, so you have to stay logged in for 5 hours every day, and you can exchange 10 of these Lost Fairy bags on the Kamasilve Temple to get 1 Laila's Petal. Laila's Petal can be used to exchange for sealed fairy wings, which actually will earn you a fairy. So pretty much if you stay logged in for 5 hours every day, you can get 1 free fairy every 2 days. The second event, a special fishing point, has been added to the Ellie's Mystical Lake Festival. During the festival period, which will conclude on the 25th of April, the koi fish can be caught through fishing. Koi fish can be sold at shops for 500,000 silver, so that's a lot, 500,000. This actually gets me interested to try fishing overnight on this special hotspot and see how much it's actually worth and the drop rate, but still we get another nice event tied to the previous week's Ellie's Mystical Lake Festival. Moving on, the Ellie's Mystical Lake event areas are now set as safe zones. The event areas from the following areas are exempt from node wars, so I'm going to assume you can't do node wars while this event is active on these areas. Anyway, moving on, some fixes, irrelevant fixes. The tulips are in full bloom in the beautiful world of Black Desert, so the theme that you see when you logged into the game. It's going to last for about 3 weeks apparently. System changes, we have just an irrelevant fix. Game world NPC and effects changes. Never mind that, it's just some fixes. Mounts, irrelevant. From class changes, let me see. There is one line on Rangers which seems to be somewhat interesting. Fixed the issue where transitioning from Kamasilve Sword to the longbow stance while moving forward, then using the skill Blasting Gust, activated the skill even though you failed to hit the target. Pretty much what this fixed is, while transitioning from the awakening to the bow and moving forward, whenever I would use blasting gust, it would do some weird animation and do the normal blasting gust, but basically it was a different animation. It was a weird bug, and I'm glad to see that one fixed. Everything else is of course fixes from top to bottom, so I'm just going to skip the entire class changes tab. You can check your class if you want, but it's everything just fixes and quality of life improvements, I would say. So item changes. The description of the energy recovering items has been made more clear and easier to understand. The same for the description of elixirs and crystals, which now are going to say attack speed +1, all AP +5 and so on. The specification information of the following items has been made more clear. Again, instead of saying slightly higher, I mean slight or huge improvement, now it's going to probably say the proper value. Same thing for the processing costumes, and I'm going to assume the other ones as well. Instead of saying processing success rate +1, +2, now it says the actual percentage. And we have information regarding the extra energy recovery has been added in the description of all bad items. Pretty much they improved the descriptions for a lot of items. From monster changes, the strike effects of the following monsters has been adjusted to look more natural, which includes one of the mobs at the K3 Ruins, the Commander, some other green orc skeleton warrior, which might be Hex's Sanctuary, maybe, the Ogres, and the Morgulis, probably the Scroll. Besides that, we have some quest and knowledge changes, which in my opinion are pretty much irrelevant. Interface changes, anything important? Not really anything relevant, I would say. The pre-order and notifications buttons on sold out items on the marketplace will now be displayed upon right-clicking on the unavailable item, so that's something some people might be interested in. The other ones are pretty much irrelevant. The following information will be displayed on the stable and raft screens. The numbers of mounts checked in, the ones taken out, the available slots per stable or raft. As I said, irrelevant. So next up we have resolved issues, which pretty much irrelevant, and that's about it. So not exactly a lot happened for, this week. We got the addition of the Yona's Fragments, which I think is a pretty irrelevant buff to the Valencia grinding spots. If I'm wrong, you may correct me in the comments. We also got the Fairy, which I'm actually quite interested to check out. I want to get at least one and see how hard or easy it is to level them up. And besides that, what I'm happy to see is the fix on the Ranger switch from the Awakening stance to the Bow stance and using Blasting Gust right after that, which was a very annoying bug. There may be some other important bug fixes for the classes, but since I don't play the other classes, I can't say exactly how useful they are. And besides those, that is about it. There's of course the event, so you have to stay logged in 2 days to get a free fairy. I'm not sure how long does this one last. I think 2 weeks, so for 2 weeks. So in total you have the chance to get 7 free fairies. And that's pretty much everything. Oh yeah, there's also the buff on the fish value by 25% and the trade goods. Actually it says trade goods by 20%, so this may not include the crates. Anyway, I'm not going to make this longer than it has to be. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. I hope this was helpful. Sorry if I may have sounded differently, but I'm just sick, and I will see you guys in the next video. So yeah, bye.